Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So I'm going to wait a couple of minutes for people to tune in before I get started. There are a couple of things that I want to talk about. And I was thinking about talking about one topic, but I'm like, I'm going to push that to the side for now and just focus on these two situations. So I'm just going to give people time to tune in before we get started. Please let me know if you can hear me all right. Just throw up a one if you can hear the audio fine. Please let me know. I would appreciate it. I see that I have a couple of people here. So if you can just let me know in the chat room if you can hear me okay, if the audio and visuals are coming out fine before we get started. Just throw up a one and let me know everything's okay, everything's a go, and we can get into it. Because I have to talk about this subject. Shout out to Big Game. Shout out to Nikki Justice. Thanks for letting me know that everything is okay. What's up with y'all? How are y'all doing today? Yeah, so I had to talk about this. Like this first story about Boyce Watkins, I heard about a while ago, but I didn't really weigh in on it. The first time I heard about it was when Paris Milan did her video on the subject. And I just want to go through some of the allegations in the complaint against Boyce Watkins. And then after that, I'm going to go into this recent controversy involving Zaza Ali. Shout out to Joe. Thanks for tuning in. So let me share my screen real quick. If you all can bear with me 1 second, I'm going to first discuss this Boyce Watkins situation and share some of my thoughts. And I'm really interested in hearing from you as well. Like, I want to know, what do you all think about this controversy involving Boyce Watkins? Just bear with me 1 second. So as you can see right here, here's the lawsuit that's been filed against Boyce Watkins. Maria Richard filed this lawsuit against him. She went by the name of Maria Lloyd at one point. She actually had her own YouTube channel. I don't know if she still has her own YouTube channel at this point. And she had been featured on Boyce Watkins' channel. She actually did a video where she was calling out Umar Johnson, and that caused a lot of controversy between Boyce Watkins and Umar Johnson. They had a little back and forth or whatever, and there was a big talk about that whole thing here on YouTube. So that's when I first recognized this woman. Now, what I'm going to do is just go through like some of her allegations in this complaint. I'm not going to scroll through the complaint. I'm just going to highlight sections of it. I printed this out a while ago, and I actually, read through it this morning. And basically, these are her allegations. She went into a partnership with Boyce Watkins and his brother, and apparently she was supposed to own like 18% of this company and be entitled to like 18% of the profits from this particular company. And what she alleges is that Boyce Watkins and his brother apparently tried to cut her out of the funds. But let me back up for a second. So Boyce Watkins, he's all about financial literacy and entrepreneurship and stuff like that. They talked about how Boyce Watkins went on the Breakfast Club and he was promoting this counseling service that he offers, financial advice and all that kind of stuff. And apparently it really blew up. Like, he got a lot of calls, a lot of emails and stuff like that. So in response to this great demand that he was receiving for this particular service, they created this company called the Black Wealth Boot Camp. And Maria Richard was supposed to have like 18%, and I think Boyce Watkins had 72% or something like that, and his brother had like a certain percentage. And basically Maria's alleging that he basically cut her out by diverting money and resources from this company that they created together to a lot of shell companies that Boyce Watkins has. And because those shell companies don't have any kind of, she doesn't have any stake in those particular shell companies, she was cut out of profits. That's what she alleges. So basically, he's diverting money and resources from their joint venture to all these other ventures where she doesn't have any kind of stake in. And it's basically a situation where she's not getting what they agreed upon, like the 18% that they agreed upon. And in this particular lawsuit, she is seeking $1 million in damages. She alleges that Boyce Watkins breached their contract. She alleges that there was tortious interference with the contract. She alleges misappropriation, unjust enrichment, and breach of fiduciary duty. So she says that Boyce Watkins breached his fiduciary duty, and basically she says that he violated trust, confidence, and loyalty. And this made me think about quite a few things, and I'm going to get into that in a second. She also accuses him of conversion. So you had a situation where the sister went into business with Boyce Watkins, and she provided a lot of services. And I'm going to go into like some of the things that she says that she did. I'm just looking through the complaint right now. Yeah, so let me just break down the percentages. So she said that her interest was 18% of this company. Boyce Watkins' interest was 72%, and his brother's interest was like 10%. And again, basically, she's saying that he had all these shell companies, and he basically diverted a lot of the resources from their joint venture to those shell companies in order to cut her out. Like, he has these companies such as Your Black World Network, Great Black Speakers, LLC. He has the Watkins Media Group and some other LLCs and stuff like that. And, so that's what she's claiming. Now, she said that she did all these particular services, like she left her job, like she had some job in the business world. She decided to leave that job to become a full-time blogger working for Boyce Watkins. Some of the things that she would do included managing the online platforms, assisting with the selling of online offerings, enrolling participants, dealing and resolving customer service issues, creating PowerPoint presentations for lectures and things like that. And she basically says that Boyce Watkins, gathered the email addresses from the people that enrolled into that wealth boot camp or whatever, and basically had those people cancel whatever service that they were receiving from the joint venture and get the same identical service from these particular shell companies in order to basically cut her out. And she's basically saying that Boyce Watkins and his brother realized that they can make far more money if they cut her out of, the deal, cut her out of the profits and stuff. And again, she is seeking $1 million in profit, $1 million in damages from Boyce Watkins. Now I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now and just share a couple of my thoughts. But before I do so, I'm going to go to your comments to see what you all are saying. Just bear with me 1 second. And just to let you know, like I use this title, Stay Scheming, it's really inspired from this song that Drake and Rick Ross have where, basically it's like talking about scheming and stuff like that. And it seems like, these people are basically scheming each other. So let me see what you all are saying before I get into my commentary about the Boyce Watkins thing. I'm not going to spend too much time on here about these particular issues, but I want to share my thoughts about this. Shout out to Gun Streets laughing at the title because that's what they're doing, man. Unfortunately, man, these people that are quote unquote black leaders or people that people are looking up to are scheming people, man. And it's a shame, man. Shout out to Blessed One. Shout out to King Hebrew. Shout out to Miss Harmony. Again, shout out to Gun Streets. And yeah, and that's the thing. Like Big Game said, Boyce ain't have nowhere near $1 million, and he's laughing out loud. But in this particular complaint, Maria Lloyd basically, says that Boyce Watkins boasted about how this is the first venture that he participated in, and he earned like 6 figures right away, like very soon. And then the profits even went up greater than that later on. So he was making substantial money off of this. And we know that the Breakfast Club is a big platform. You know, a lot of people watch that program, and I'm sure a lot of people contacted Boyce Watkins. I don't doubt that part of the story at all. I don't doubt at all that this man is making substantial funds from these ventures. Shout out to BB. Thanks for tuning in. Shout out to Black First. Oh, so Big Game said she's a disgruntled ex. You know, the Big Game said that Boyce is saying that she, you know, this particular plaintiff is a disgruntled ex. I don't know the truth of that. You know, I don't know if that's true or not. You know, I don't think that somebody would go, or I mean, there are some people that may be irrational like that, but I don't think that somebody would go to a law firm and retain their services, pay for legal fees, and have them draft up a complaint simply because they were hurt over some relationship issues. You know, in a court of law, you have to prove, you know, whatever case you bring. And if you bring a frivolous lawsuit, you can not only have your case dismissed, but you actually can be sanctioned and stuff like that, where you end up paying your opponent's legal fees and stuff, paying for their expenses. So, you know, it would be stupid for this woman to bring a suit just based on being a disgruntled ex. You know, I think that there probably is something to that, to this particular lawsuit. But that brings me to another point. Like, you know, I have to have a disclaimer out here. Like, we don't know whether these allegations are true or not. Right now, these are just allegations. This is just a complaint. And, you know, it's up to a court of law and a trier of facts to determine whether or not these allegations are true, but they raise very serious questions. And, you know, this is not the first time there has been some controversy involving Boyce Watkins. We know all about the Charles Wu issue, and I'm not going to go into that in detail, but I'll just say this. I mean, here you had this guy that talks all about this, you know, Black empowerment and, you know, Black economics and all that kind of stuff. And it turns out that this guy, Charles Wu, basically said that Boyce Watkins is a pitch man selling Black people dreams and hopes and stuff like that. Um, you know, selling them things, basically milking this Black victimhood in order to make money off of Black people. So I'm not surprised by any of these allegations. You know, I'm not surprised at all. And hold on one second. Hold on, y'all, one second. Sorry about that, y'all. I just got a call. I'm supposed to be on vacation, but you know how it goes with work. You know, sometimes people have to contact you. So I'm sorry about that. But let me just go through your comments real quick. Hold on one second. So Gab Talk Media said, I know people that have benefited from the work of Boyce Watkins. Now, there's one thing, you know, there are two different issues here. Like one issue is like the services that Boyce Watkins provides. The other thing is, you know, whether or not he swindled this woman out of her fair share of what they agreed to, her fair share of the profits. Those are two different issues. Just bear, I'm looking at your comments, one second. Yeah, so somebody, Big Game is talking about Zaza Ali. Zaza Ali is a different, you know, that's a whole different matter. And I'm going to get into that separately. That's a different situation. This lawsuit involves somebody else. This lawsuit does not involve Zaza Ali, just so that we're clear. I mean, there's some confusion about this. Yeah, so I just want to clear that up. So hopefully people won't get confused. Yeah, so let me go into my commentary about this particular situation. You know, first of all, this is somebody that's his like a business partner. And the thing is, if he would do this to his own business partner, you know, somebody that was cool with him, somebody that was down with him, and somebody, according to some of these people, actually has some kind of relationship with them. You know, I don't know whether that's true or false, but at least, you know, this woman has some kind of friendship or some kind of business relationship with this man. Now, if he would do this, like assuming that these allegations are true, if he would do this to her, somebody that he knows, somebody that helped build his platform and stuff like that, what does that say about what he would do to you and me, or to the black, you know, black community as a collective? What does it say about that? Like if he would do somebody that this dirty, somebody that he, you know, somebody that trusted him, somebody that had confidence in him, somebody that was loyal to him and helped build his platform, like what would he do to the rest of us, you know, to the black community? And I think that that speaks volumes. And this is not the first time that this man has been involved in controversies involving him not paying staff or people that work with him, people that partner with him. Paris Milan pointed out in her video how he owed her money and he was like not paying her what he owed her. And you also had the situation of Yvette Carnell complaining about, you know, Boyce Watkins not compensating her for her work, you know, her working for him for extended amount of time, you know, doing a lot of work building his platform. His platform would not be where it is today if it wasn't for Yvette Carnell. And if he's not going to pay her, somebody to help build his stuff, I mean, what does that say about what he would do for black people, man? And it's like, it's a shame that people look to these hustlers and scammers as their leaders, man. They're looking up to somebody who can't even be trusted to deal in an equitable way in terms of his business practices. They're looking to somebody like that for leadership. If somebody can't lead a company with integrity, how in the hell can you look upon them to lead the black community with integrity and with respect and dignity? And the thing is, like, a lot of people, like, a lot of people will say, well, why don't judge this brother and this and that? But the thing is, man, you know, people like Boyce Watkins, they don't have any problem judging and holding other people accountable. You know, they only have a problem with accountability when people want to hold them accountable. Like Boyce Watkins has no problem holding everybody else accountable. But when it comes to holding himself accountable, all of a sudden he wants to back out. He wants to say, well, I'm not a black leader and stuff like that. And that's a telltale sign of somebody that doesn't want to be held accountable. That's the telltale sign of somebody that wants to exploit and pillage the Black community when they say, well, I don't want to be a Black leader, but here they are constantly using rhetoric, you know, constantly wanting people to look upon them as authority figures and stuff like that. But then when it comes time to be held accountable, when it comes time for responsibility, all of a sudden they want to talk about how you're your own leader. And they want to talk about how I'm not a, you know, they say, well, I'm not a Black leader and stuff like that. They are telling you time and time again that they are not your leader and stuff like that, but yet they don't have any problem wanting to be taken seriously as some kind of authority figure in terms of Black thought and Black opinion and, you know, online and just period. And I just think that that's a sign of exploitation. That's a sign that these people aren't serious. And it just makes me wonder, like, wonder out loud, like, why our people are so gullible, man. You know, despite this controversy, you know, people will continue to follow Boyce Watkins. I mean, this guy, from what when I last checked, he had like a third of a million subscribers. He may have more than that by now. He has a lot of subscribers. A lot of people look to him as an authority figure. And I'm just wondering, why do Black people look to charlatans like this for leadership, man? I mean, here you got the Wu controversy that came out. You have this situation where he's being sued by his own business partner, but yet and still, Black people will continue to follow this man. They will continue to be subscribed to his channel. They will continue to look at him as some kind of authority figure in the Black community. And my question is, why? Why do our people follow these types of charlatans, man? These types of hustlers. This guy is not, I mean, it's like unfortunate that you have these people that are nothing but race hustlers. You know, they are not genuinely concerned about the plight of Black people. They exploit race to sell pop products, man. And that's essentially what this man has been doing, man. Using race to sell different products to the people and not really being about improving the plight of the people. And it's just a shame, man. It's a shame that this continues to happen, man. You know, you have example after example of these different people who are nothing but hustlers, man. And the reason why I can say that they are hustlers and not for real, because you don't see them actually doing real work to try to change the situation of Black people. Now, some people will say, well, this boot camp and stuff like that is about, you know, empowering the Black community and stuff like that. That's one thing. Entrepreneurship is good. You know, that is something that's beneficial to the community. But at the end of the day, it's about him making money. And that's what Charles Wu told us when he talked about like Boyce Watkins selling people hopes and dreams and stuff like that. But when you look at when you look at actually creating a movement to create a difference, like in terms of protest movement, in terms of like political advocacy or lobbying the halls of government to change various policies, you see very little of that coming from Boyce Watkins. Very little. Like I understand that a while ago he had some letter writing campaign where he tried to get people on board to deal with mass incarceration. But other than that, this man is not pushing any kind of policy agenda. This man is not leading any kind of protest or anything like that. In fact, this man is basically downplaying the significance of voting, basically saying that Black people don't need to really focus on politics, even though it's politics that controls public policy that impacts our lives. So when people do all that kind of stuff, as another YouTuber was pointing out, like when they want to discourage you from being involved in the political system, when they don't participate in any kind of demonstrations or organize any kind of demonstrations against the injustices that we see, those are telltale signs that these people are exploiting the community. And it's a damn shame. And then if he would exploit, again, his own partner, who's to say what he'll do when it comes to the entire Black community, man? If the people closest to you can't trust you, then obviously the people that are more distant from you really can't trust you. So I just had to share my thoughts about this, man. It's just crazy that here we have another situation where you have a Black man, you know, hustling the community, And I think that this is just one piece of it. You know, I think that it's possible that there may be more to this situation involving Boyce Watkins. But it's just a shame, man. It's a shame that people continue to follow him despite the, you know, the controversy that emerged with him and this Charles Wu situation. Uh, and that brings me to this other person. You know, I'm going to talk about this other person before I get into Zaza Ali. I mean, we know about that guy, Phil from the Advice Show. Here this guy was posting all these videos against the interracial relationship agenda. But then again, you know, this guy actually is in an interracial relationship. And he came up with all these cockamamie excuses to justify that. And yet it's still, despite of that blatant hypocrisy, you know, that blatant example of not practicing what you preach, Black people continue to support the guy. You know, he's almost at 1 million subscribers from what I understand. And my question is, why do we follow these types of people, man? Why do we follow these hustlers, these hypocrites, man? Shout out to Linda Moore for your donation. I truly appreciate it. Much respect to you. Yeah, so I had to address that. You know, it's just like time and time again, you see these situations. And the next situation I want to address is Zaza Ali real quick. I'm going to share my screen with you all real quick. Just bear with me 1 second. Okay, so you see this story from CBS. There's a link to this particular story in the description box so that you can watch this video for yourself. I'm not going to play the video because I don't want to deal with copyright issues. But you had this situation where Zaza Ali planned this retreat, you know, this seminar dealing with meditation and stuff. It was an out-of-town retreat. And people registered for it, from what I understand. Quite a few people registered for it. They paid thousands of dollars to attend this event. And the people that paid for this event, a lot of them were Black women, from what I understand. And the day before this event was scheduled to take place, Zaza Ali canceled the event. And initially, she just kept the cash. It was only after the victims went to the media and they started to like make a big deal about this that she actually decided to pay them back, give them refunds for the money that they had paid. You know, after this story aired and after, you know, all this public shaming took place, then she tried to, you know, pay them back, and she paid them back from what they're reporting in the story. And they also claim that Zaza Ali sent out an email to the people telling them that she was involved in an accident, and that's why she had to cancel the event. And it turns out the media contacted the hotel, and they found out that the event had been canceled like a whole month before. A month before the actual event, it was canceled because she had failed to pay for the event. And, you know, the people that were paid for this event, it's like the day before the event was to take place, they got the notification again that it was canceled. I mean, I'm sure that there are probably some people that may have planned to fly to the event or something like that. They probably had transportation expenses that they paid to go to the event, and it's canceled the day before. And, you know, the fact that this woman would make up a story about why it was canceled, that tells you a lot, man. It's like, how can you trust somebody that lies to you, man, that literally made up a story to justify canceling this event? It is outrageous. Like, how can you trust anything that this person has to say at that point? If they're gonna, you know, get thousands of dollars from you, cancel the event, and then come up with some kind of lie as to why they canceled the event. It would be one thing if she just was honest and said, well, we had to cancel because we were unable to pay for the hotel, and here's your money. That would be one thing. But to make up a complete lie and then to hold on to the money for a while before paying these people back their money is outrageous, man. And it seems like if there was no media attention brought on this, it's possible that they may not have received their money. And we've seen situations like this before. Like the worst case scenario would be that clown brother Polight, man. You know, a clown that basically told you that money is his God and stuff like that. This guy is accused by multiple people of hustling them out of their money. You have all these people saying that they purchased goods and services that they never received. And, you know, they had to contact him over and over again. And he refused to pay a lot of these people back. You have people giving over their savings to him. So you have example after example of these people preying upon the Black community. You know, bloodsuckers of the community, man. Vampires, you know, draining the life force out of the Black community, man. And it's just a shame that this stuff occurs. And it's a shame that our people basically are in a situation where they have to go to the white media in order to get resolution of an issue involving their own Black sister, man. So let me stop sharing my screen for a second. And this brings me to another point, man. You have results like this when you mix capitalism and Black empowerment. That's what happens. Because people that are motivated by money, they're going to push that Black empowerment stuff to the side. Like that's going to take a second tier to their interest or their pursuit for money. And that's what happens time and time again. Like people get intoxicated by their desire to build more and more wealth for themselves. So they put the profits over the people, man. Every time that happens. I mean, it happened with Brother Polight, like despite all this rhetoric, this pro-Black rhetoric and all this stuff, this Black empowerment rhetoric, you know, at the end of the day, this brother, you know, Brother Polight exploited people, milked people of their money, took people's money, and flaunted it. Like this guy literally took people's money and was, you know, balling out in their faces, you know, driving fancy cars, you know, filming videos in mansions and stuff like that, poolside with his harem of women, basically flaunting his exploits of the Black community. But yet and still, people like this Brother Polight clown still have all these subscribers, all these people that support him, that stand by him. You know, he still gets promoted on that Sonetta program, even though he's been accused time and time again of scheming. And it's my question is like, why do we allow these types of people to continue to exploit us, man? Why are these the people that we deem to be leaders, even though these people have produced absolutely nothing for Black people? You know, nothing tangible, nothing that's measurable in terms of like creating some kind of difference in our community. Yeah, so this is very disappointing, man, to hear this news. Like Zaza Ali is like one of the last people that I would think of as being a hustler. Like I never would think that she would hustle people out of their money. But I mean, I'm glad that she did give them back their money, but it's a damn shame that they had to go to the white media in order to get her to give them their money back. It's a disgrace, man. It's a shame that she would lie to her own supporters, like people that actually gave their hard-earned money to her. You know, her own people, the Black women that she's supposed to represent and have so much love for. Like she always talks about issues dealing with Black women. She always, you know, has positive messages for Black women. But here she is in a situation where she's literally taking money from Black women. And then after taking money from Black women, you know, inventing a lie and, you know, taking this money from Black women, and after finally being pressured to give them their refunds, this woman sent an email to one of the victims, basically telling, you know, like berating her, you know, talking about like, now go tell the white man what I, you know, that I made this, you know, gave you your money back and all that kind of stuff. So it's just very disappointing, man. Like Zaza Ali is somebody that I have respect for and stuff like that. And perhaps she can redeem herself. Perhaps, you know, this is just some bad decision making on her part. And maybe she can redeem herself and do great things afterwards. But this is a really a huge blot on her record. Like it causes me to look at her in a skeptical kind of way. And it causes me to question her, man, question her integrity, man. Again, if you lie about something like this, what else are you lying about? That's the question. And why should anybody trust you at this point? Trust anything that you have to say. And the fact that you had this type of mismanagement, where she's not able to have the funds together to make sure that the event goes forward and everything like that, that just tells you that she's really not fit to be any kind of leader of anything of substance, man. If you can't lead a basic event and make sure that it goes off properly and stuff like that, and it's properly funded and it's not canceled, then how can you be entrusted with Black leadership in our community? And back to Boyce Watkins, like, if you can't even manage your financial affairs to such a degree where you don't have your own business partners complaining about you and complaining about you defrauding them, frauding them of money, stealing money from them, basically trying to cut them out and committing fraud and stuff like that. If you can't be trusted to handle basic business practices, how can Black people, and why should Black people trust you for any kind of leadership? And despite his proclamation that he's not a leader and this and that, the fact of the matter is he's a thought leader. Hundreds of thousands of people look to this man for advice. Hundreds of thousands of people actually take what this man says seriously, and they parrot, his rhetoric. So let me see what you all are saying before I sign out, man. I want to thank y'all for tuning in. Again, I want to thank the brother Linda Moore for his donation. I appreciate that. Just bear with me 1 second. Shout out to Psycho. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, this is the lawsuit that Paris Milan was talking about. It's the same lawsuit. And she's where I first heard about this, this particular lawsuit. Yeah, Boyce Watkins was a disappointment, man. Like, even though I disagree with like his positions on politics and his Booker T. Washington type of approach to Black issues, and some of his conservatism, I still held out respect for him, despite some of my disagreements. Like, there were many things that I agree with him on. It's just really disappointing, man, because before this YouTube thing, Boyce Watkins was actually a respected Black intellectual in our community, man. He was somebody taken seriously. And it's just a shame to see this brother go from like a respected Black intellectual, a college professor and all that stuff, to becoming just another one of these race hustling YouTube personalities, man. It's a disgrace. Now, I've noticed that other people have talked about like how this woman, Maria Richard, is not like a victim and stuff like that. Basically they're saying that she should have been smart and, figured this out. And basically they suggest that she's participating in, this hustling type of activity that Boyce Watkins is participating in. And she's the last person to complain and stuff like that. And I understand why they're making those points, and those points have some validity. But I'll say this, like, at this point, there's no proof that the Black Wealth Boot Camp is a hustle or anything like that. I haven't seen any proof that people were being defrauded in that area. So I can't say that she was a part of like some kind of hustling scheme. And, as far as the Black Wealth Boot Camp is concerned, there's no evidence, and I'm not aware of any allegations against Boyce Watkins saying that, people were scammed out of their money. People that signed up for that program were scammed. So I can't say at this point that she was a part of any kind of scheme or anything like that. And I can't say that Boyce Watkins is scheming people with that Black Wealth Boot Camp and stuff like that. And as somebody pointed out here, somebody, some people say that they actually benefited from those lessons. And then you have other people that complain about saying it's not that thorough, it's not that, helpful and all that kind of stuff. But at this point, there's no evidence that that's a fraudulent program at all. So that's my brief response to, some of those things that I've heard people say here on YouTube. So let's see. Yeah, so BB said that Yvette Carnell was one of the reasons why she trusted Boyce Watkins. She talked about Yvette Carnell's sound political point of view and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that attracted me to his channel. Like, I really appreciated Yvette Carnell's sound political commentary. Like, I mean, there are some things that I disagree with her on, as with anybody, but for the most part, her content was very thorough. She provided, powerful commentary on that channel. And that's one of the reasons why I was drawn to that channel. As many people, and I think that her voice added some credibility to Boyce Watkins' channel. Her politics were different from or are different from Boyce Watkins' politics. So, yeah, I think that she definitely added credibility to his channel. And that's a valid point. And then, her experience with Boyce Watkins, that whole thing where, she basically called him out for not being able to pay her and other employees and stuff like that. And it's like, how can we look to these people as leaders when they can't even handle their own financial affairs, man? They can't even conduct their own business properly without these types of allegations, allegations of fraud, allegations of not paying employees or contractors. I mean, it's crazy, man. But this is what is put out here as Black leadership nowadays, man. Yeah, so Big Game says, I think he was paying Yvette just not the kind of living wage for, that she should be earning, basically. But the thing is, like he said, I mean, Yvette Carnell said that there were long periods of time that she went without getting paid, and that she had to basically vigorously pursue him to get her money, and, the same situation with Paris Milan. That's not how you conduct business. If you were working a 9-to-5 job, and after you worked your 2 weeks and you're expecting your paycheck and your boss said, well, I can't give it to you now, you're going to have to wait another month or two before I can pay you, you wouldn't tolerate that. You wouldn't continue to work for that particular company, and you would be outraged. And I think that we should have the same kind of outrage when we see him treat his employees like that. And it should cause us to question not only his business judgment, but his judgment as a Black man and as a quote unquote Black leader. Yeah, shout out to Bobby Norris. Shout out to Gab Talk Media. Yeah, Big Game said that I am not a Black leader rhetoric is a cop-out. Exactly. It's a way that they can avoid responsibility and accountability. As long as they can say, well, I'm not a Black leader, then they can back out of people trying to hold them accountable for the things that they do wrong or for their shortcomings. And the same is true for these people that say, well, I'm not pro-Black, like that Cynthia G, this woman that spends all her time talking all this fake pro-Black rhetoric, and then she wants to back out of being called pro-Black because she doesn't want people to check her about, talking all this Black pride stuff while wearing a weave that is contrary to that messaging about Black pride, a weave that resembles non-Black hair. And then, basically tries to silence her critics by questioning their masculinity, by trying to shame them and make them seem like they're feminine for calling her out for her hypocrisy. So it's like these people don't want accountability, and that's not leadership. Leadership has to be held accountable. These people are just Black entertainers, man. They entertain people. They provide people with things to stimulate their ears, but what they're providing people with is not empowering Black people. It's not actually creating any kind of vehicle for any kind of change in the society. And it's like the legitimate means for change, these people constantly downplay those things, like protests, like, you know, participating in the political process, like lobbying for passage of legislation. All those things are downplayed to these people. That's how you know they're not for real. That's how you know that they're not serious a lot of times. Yeah, so Bless One said, it's sad to say a lot of people are easily manipulated. Yeah, I mean, they are. All these examples, you know, I've mentioned Brother Polight, you know, despite all the controversies he's been involved in, he still has tens of thousands of followers, you know, many people that are loyally dedicated to this man. You know, I go on my Facebook page and I see people constantly reposting a lot of his videos, a lot of these viral videos that he has. People still look to him as legitimate despite all these claims from all these people that he hustled them out of money. You got Umar, I mean, you could go into Umar Johnson, for instance, a man that's raised all these tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, actually, you know, for the building of some school, a fundraiser that's been going on for years. And from what I understand, there's like $700,000 that this man cannot account for. No school has been built, no school in sight, but yet and still, people continue to follow this man. They continue to support him in his endeavors. And I'm sure that there's some people that still give this man money. And my question is, why? Why are we so gullible? Why do we just get intoxicated with people's ability to speak and, you know, their charisma and stuff like that, instead of looking at their actual results, what they are actually doing in the community? Then you got Boyce Watkins, who was involved in, you know, that Charles Wu controversy and now this situation. But yet and still, people are still supporting him. If you go to his channel today, you will see that he has hundreds of thousands of subscribers. You will see people voicing their support for this man. And my question is why? And I hope that Zaza Ali like gets it together. You know, I hope that this is an anomaly, because this is my first time hearing about a controversy involving like misconduct on her part. But this raises serious concerns, man. I hope that she doesn't end up just falling into that camp of scheming, hustling, race pimps here on YouTube, man. I hope that she's not in that category, man. Yeah, it's just crazy, man. You know, it's like, it's very disappointing and heartbreaking to see this happen time and time again. And it causes people not to have any kind of trust. Like when real leaders come to our community, when people that want to actually do something to make a difference come to the community, they're going to probably be viewed with suspicion because of this long track record of race hustlers, of charlatans, of people pimping Black pain for their own profit. Because of that legacy, people are going to look at these other people as suspect and not be inclined to follow their actual real leadership. And what I would recommend people do is support organizations, join organizations that actually have a history of making a difference, a history that's measurable, you know, something that people can point to and cite the information for. So let's continue to go through these comments. Yeah, it's just a shame, man. Yeah, so BB said the Black community is in love with appearances versus delivery. You know, they're like more wrapped up with like sweet sounding words, you know, promising words and stuff like that. They're intoxicated by rhetoric, man. And that goes back to the church tradition, you know, like how a lot of churches are led by charismatic preachers and stuff like that. It's part of the Black community tradition. Like we really are captivated by those people who are able to articulate themselves in powerful and compelling ways. So we're more drawn to how people say things than actually what they actually do in the Black community. And that reminds me of like situations where there are like people that have a history of actually doing something, you know, producing results in the Black community, that, you know, weren't like the most powerful speakers or whatever. You know, people like Elijah Muhammad, despite his shortcomings and stuff like that, that man did actually build institutions in the Black community. They built schools, they built businesses, you know, and all that kind of stuff. You know, so they actually built people's lives. Like people were reformed from being drug addicts and criminals and gangsters and stuff like that, and they were transformed into productive citizens. You know, so despite the fact that Elijah Muhammad wasn't like one of these charismatic leaders or somebody that was very articulate or, you know, someone who gave powerful speeches, he was able to actually do things to make a difference. You know, he actually had spokespeople to articulate his message and all that kind of stuff. So he was a man of results despite his shortcomings, you know, compared to these people that are big on rhetoric, but very little on actually bringing tangible results and, you know, things that are actual signs of progress. And then you have civil rights organizations who have a long track record of actually winning cases in court, of actually passing legislation that makes differences in people's lives. So we need to be involved with groups and, you know, leaders that actually produce results instead of people that just sound good, you know, people that talk well and all that kind of stuff. We need to be more concerned with actual empowerment instead of, you know, just entertainment. And unfortunately, too often that's what a lot of these people provide, Black power entertainment instead of actual Black power. Yeah, so Bobby Norris pointed out like how he saw Boyce Watkins' daughter cursing in front of him, and he was shaking his head. Yeah, I noticed that too, like in some of his videos where his daughter is, you know, using profanity, and Boyce Watkins is using profanity in front of his daughter and stuff. Um, yeah, that's something that was unusual. Like I know back in the day when I was growing up, like cursing in front of your parents was like, you know, something that was like non-existent in the Black community. I mean, growing up as a kid, like people would get ass whippings for doing stuff like that. You know, even to this day, like as a grown ass man, like, you know, a middle-aged man, I don't use profanity in front of my mother. You know, I never use profanity in front of my mother or my father to this day. So I don't get what that's about, like what kind of environment she was raised in or how he raised his daughter or whatever. And not to say that that's everything, but just in terms of respect, that's just not how I was raised. And that's not how a lot of Black people were raised. I noticed that that was more common in white communities where, you know, you would have kids cursing out their parents or whatever, you know, using profanity around their parents. But that's a whole nother subject. But yeah, that's a interesting point that you raised. So people said that Big Game said that Boyce Watkins does offer some sound financial advice. You know, well, that's some people have questioned that, and some people have actually raised the whole point about Boyce Watkins and his own finances. You know, they put out his credit scores and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, those are very legitimate questions. Like, you know, some people that actually participated in the that wealth boot camp or whatever were complaining about the information not being as comprehensive as they expected. You know, they were basically complaining about it being basic information and stuff like that instead of like really sound, you know, business advice or financial advice. So I think that that's up for debate whether or not he offers sound financial advice and information. But yeah, I mean, it's a serious question. Like, how can somebody provide you with financial advice if they have such poor credit scores and stuff, man? And all you have to do is search here on YouTube, you know, Boyce Watkins and bad credit, and you'll see, you know, many videos come up on that subject, man. And even despite that, like when I first saw that, you know, that wasn't that big of a deal to me. The big deal to me was that whole Charles Wu controversy, man, because it caused me not to have any kind of trust or confidence in Boyce Watkins, man. Here you are talking all this black empowerment stuff, and you got a Asian man talking about using you as some pitch man. You have an Asian man talking about how this black guy is selling black people pipe dreams. You have an Asian man talking about how Boyce Watkins was able to make more money from their joint venture by crying on camera and stuff and pulling at people's heartstrings. So that sickened me when I heard that, man. That disgusted me. And, you know, after that, I just unsubbed from his channel and I haven't been back since. Um, it's just crazy, man. And Yvette Carnell was the one that brought that whole controversy to public light. She's the one that brought attention to it. Selling you hopes and dreams. And that's all that these fake pro-black people sell black people is hopes and dreams. Because when it comes to things that are measurable and tangible, they are, you know, they produce none of that stuff. None of it, for the most part. So let's see what people are saying some more. Just bear with me. Psycho said it was hilarious listening to Phil criticize Zaza last night. The nerve of him. Exactly. I mean, it's just so outrageous, man. And it's so outrageous to me that people still take Phil from the advice so seriously, man. This is a guy who lied to people. He told people that his wife was an Afro-Latina. And it turns out she's just a white Latina. She's virtually white. Virtually white, man. And he lied to the people, telling people that she was an Afro-Latina and all that kind of stuff. You know, there are videos, you know, of him on Lashid For You's show where he's lying about the situation. And then, you know, the hypocrisy, as I said before, this guy had videos out criticizing people involved in interracial relationships. This guy had videos out criticizing the so-called interracial relationship agenda. But yet and still, this guy is actually in a interracial relationship with a white Mexican. And people still take that clown seriously, man. How in the hell can you take this man seriously? And it's like, when people see that black people will support you no matter what, it's no wonder that the black community is exploited time and time again, over and over again. Hold on one second, y'all. I got. All right, actually, I'm going to call the person back in a second. Just bear with me one second, y'all. Yeah, I'm looking through your comments. Yeah, man, that's hilarious, man, that this guy will be taking Zaza Ali to task when he's one of the biggest hypocrites here on YouTube, man. And it disgusts me that people continue to follow these people and take them seriously. Yeah, so Bobby Norris said that Tariq had already called out Zaza Ali before. And Tariq is another example, man. Another example of one of these hustlers, man. Who is he to call somebody out as much hustling as he does and stuff like that? You know, this guy does all this talk about like bedwinch, this and that. But yet and still, this guy is on camera talking about how he would have sex with some white woman. This guy is on camera in Brazil drooling over white women. This guy is on record talking about how black women, you know, basically are are not good mothers compared to white women. Talking about like interracial relationships and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not going to go into detail. I mean, the guy has been called out time and time again. And again, he's another one of these people that don't want to be called a leader, etc. But I do remember that controversy where he was talking about how she had some criminal record and he was suggesting that she was some kind of agent and stuff like that, simply because she was pointing out, the misogyny in his promotional program for that movie. This movie about, the Hidden Colors series or whatever, where he's using women in a hot tub or whatever as some kind of way to promote his hidden colors. I was about to say hidden figures, but hidden colors. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But yeah, that's a whole nother story. Yeah, it's just crazy, man, that people continue to follow that guy Phil from the Advice show, man. I don't see what they get from watching this show, man. And I could understand like how people, for instance, would even watch a Tommy, because at least Tommy's funny or whatever. He makes people laugh. He's entertaining, even though I don't agree with a damn thing that comes out of his mouth. And I condemn just about everything he represents. But I can understand why somebody that's gullible and somebody that's not like a thinker, why they would watch his stuff. But a Phil from the Advice show, I don't understand like why people watch him like that, man. Why they just love his stuff and love his content. And he has all these subscribers, but that's a whole nother story. But it's like, it goes to the point of the gullible, how gullible many people are in our community, man. Let's see. Just bear with me as I go through your comments. So Gab Talk TV said the accident was confirmed, but if it was an actual accident, like why did she cancel it? I mean, the hotel said that they had canceled it a whole month before. Like why is she telling people now it's canceled? Now she may, like, I don't know if she was actually involved in an accident or if that was used as some kind of pretext to cancel everything after the fact. But the fact of the matter is, they're saying that the hotel had already canceled the event. So the accident, if she actually had an accident, had nothing to do with the cancellation of the event. Just bear with me as I look through your comments. Oh yeah, that's a good point, Joe. Yeah, I mean, another issue with that brother Polight and his hypocrisy, man, is like that whole thing where he had this white woman featured as a model for his African attire, man. And he had all this thing, he had some saying where he was talking about like how, just talking about white women and like what people look at him differently if he got with a white woman and stuff like that. This is a guy that goes around telling people that the black woman is God, preaching that nonsense, preaching the idea that a black woman is God, but yet he's not treating the black woman like a God, man. He got this white woman on a pedestal, using a white woman to peddle African attire. That whole black woman and God is God thing is nothing but another way to hustle people. It's another way to exploit people's insecurities and lack of self-confidence. It's like, it's just pimp game, man. That's all it is. And it's, that guy Polight is a clown to me, man. And it's just a shame that so many people take him seriously. Yeah, Black First says Sarnetta continues to support all the hustlers, charlatans, and homophiles. Um, yeah, man. Yeah, it's like despite him criticizing Brother Polight, he brings Brother Polight back on his program and stuff like that. So I think that there's some validity to the point that you're raising. So Big Game says it. Zaza that she's been proven to be a scammer. Like, are there other examples that you all could point out to me of her scamming? I'm not aware of her scamming anybody out of money. And Nikki Justice is saying Zaza is not black. I'm not one of these people that buy into that, if you're biracial, you're not black thing. Like, she's black as far as I'm concerned. Like, for me, that's a non-issue. The fact that she's biracial or whatever, that doesn't mean anything to me because I know that in the larger society, they look upon her as black. The black community even embraces her as black, just like the black community embraces Halle Berry and other people who are biracial, like Sade or whatever. So I'm not one of these people that want to like be so hard where they say, well, if you're not 100% black, you're not black. I don't buy into that. And for me, that's not even the issue in this discussion. Like the main issue is like, this issue of scamming and stuff like that, exploiting black people for profit and stuff and being in the hypocrisy of many of these people that claim to be pro-black. Those are the issues to me. Um, so Psycho said that Nikki never liked Zaza and always said she was a fraud. Yeah, I would want to know like why. Like, could y'all provide more examples as to why you always thought that she was a fraud? Because like, she's somebody that I had respect for. Like I check out her channel from time to time. Um, so I would really be interested in knowing like why y'all say that you already had suspicions of her being just bear with me a second. I gotta scroll through your comments because somehow this comment section bounces around. Just bear with me one second. Yeah, shout out to Psycho again. Yeah, we need more likes, man. Get those likes up. Yeah, Big Game said that she got federal charges, but somehow she didn't go to jail. Yeah, that raises questions. Like, man, people that face charges and somehow they get off, like that makes me wonder. Like, number one, are they snitching and stuff like that? Did they become an informant? So those types of issues raise serious questions. Yeah, I mean, if you watch Boyce Watkins' channel, like back when I was watching it, like his channel didn't focus on providing like sound financial advice. Like he would primarily use his channel to direct people to his other products, to his Black Wealth Boot Camp and stuff like that. So you wouldn't get the advice directly from his channel. He would talk about a lot of the things that a lot of us talk about, these current events and all that kind of stuff. And he had a lot of Black women on his channel, like talking about different issues and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, like he would mention like economic empowerment and entrepreneurship and financial literacy, but like he didn't actually provide those services directly on his channel. That's what I noticed. So let me. Just bear with me. Yeah, Psycho pointed out like the whole "I'm not pro-black" thing is just a shield so that people won't be called out for their BS. Exactly. Yeah, I would go into some of these comments about the Cynthia G piece, but I don't want to spend too much time talking about her. Um, Shout out to David Bowman. Thanks for tuning in. And shout out to Nikki Justice again. Yeah. Yeah, I just don't understand like why our people continue to follow these charlatans, man, despite all the clear evidence. Um, yeah, those comments about her about Cynthia G's fan base are legitimate. Like, Psycho said her entire fan base are male hating, Willie Lynch practicing weirdos. And that includes them self-hating men who pander to her. I mean, yeah, it's like you got these guys like, these men with no balls and no integrity that defend that woman. I mean, like, what kind of man in their right mind would defend a woman that constantly berates men? Constantly talks about men being, betas and all that, dusty betas and all that kind of stuff. Not only does she do that, she basically makes these derogatory statements about black men, period. By, for instance, talking about black men have never done anything for the liberation of black people and blah, blah, blah. Um, yeah, so let me finish going through these comments. Nikki Justice said, y'all are color struck. Boyce is light skinned. I don't think of Boyce Watkins as light skinned. Um, and I'm pretty sure, I mean, a lot of black people are color struck. And that's probably a legitimate issue with Zaza Ali. I'm sure, there are people who are color struck, when it comes to her. But, despite her being light skinned, I don't think that that's a reason to say, well, if somebody, respects her automatically it's because she's light skinned or whatever. I don't think that that's necessarily the case. And I don't think that because somebody recognizes her as attractive, that automatically means that they're just color struck and stuff. I mean, there are, colorism obviously is an issue in our community, and it may be a factor in terms of why some people like overlook some of her faults or whatever. That may actually be a factor, but I don't think that that's the whole thing. But that is a valid point that you raise about this colorism issue and about black men or black people just being color struck, period. That may actually be a factor in it. And, it may actually be a factor why people give her a pass. And not only just the colorism issue, but, the way she looks. Like a lot of people may be distracted by, her being an attractive woman and stuff. Yeah, so let's see. Just bear with me as I look through your comments before I sign out. Man, this guy that goes, I'm not going to say his last name, but this guy that goes by the name of Cousin said, Boyce is a pimp on YouTube. All these young females be saying Boyce put them on. I don't think he's a pimp, man. You know, I would say he's more like in the simp category, man. If you're gonna put him in one of those categories, man, because all these women basically climbed up their YouTube career. Well, quite a few, man, climbed up the YouTube ladder on his back. Whether we're talking about Cynthia G or Paris Milan, Yvette Carnell, and all those other women he has on his had on his platform at one time. Like he had all these women on his program talking about all these issues and stuff. And he just had like a couple of men on his platform, and that may be that simp factor, that simp factor, man. And you see that a lot. Like you see a lot of these people, these black men that have no problem sharing their platform, for instance, with women, because they're like, trying to impress these women or trying to get on with these women. But when it comes to, sharing their platform with men, they're more reluctant and stuff. You see that with Phil from the Advice show. Like he has all these women on his platform or whatever, more women as guests than he has men on his program. And I don't think that's by coincidence or anything like that. BB said that she's the real Afro-Latina. Yeah, just bear with me a second. Yeah, I just don't understand why people follow these people, but it's up to the individual, man. They can follow who they want to. I just don't understand why they do it. Okay, so Big Game says that Phil comes with news. He's the only person on Black YouTube talking about protesters in Haiti getting killed. Yeah, I'm not familiar with I'm not subscribed to Phil from the Advice Show's channel, so I don't have any idea what he's talking about right now. But I notice, like, when I usually watch his channel, he's not talking about anything that nobody else is talking about. And that may be an exception, this example that you pointed out. But for the most part, he's talking about the run-of-the-mill stories that everybody's talking about. Yeah, I mean, Tariq Nasheed, man, he's all about the money. He goes from one hustle to the next. Like 1 minute he was the fake gangster rapper, then he went from that to being a fake pimp, to being a fake relationship coach, to being a fake pro-black, and now he's trying to be an R&B singer at the same time. He's all about that money, and I can't blame somebody for trying to make money or trying to hustle. Hustle in terms of just making money, but don't do it at the Black community's expense, man. Don't exploit the pain and suffering of Black people in order to get your pockets up. That's my problem, man. Let's see. I'm not going to respond to that comment from cousin. I don't know if you're trolling or what, man, but I'm not going to air that out there. Let's see. Psycho said that black woman is God, saying equals baby what that mouth do. And yeah, I mean, basically it's a way to like hustle these women, man, to like gas them up, so you can exploit them, man. Either exploit them in the bedroom or, exploit them financially and all that kind of stuff. It's just pimp game, man. It's just, another, fly way of talking to somebody. Just like, these hustlers and players, they got these little catchphrases and, pickup lines they use and stuff like that. And that's just another example of that, man. But people are not hip to the game. They think this is some deep revelation, the black woman is God. It's pure nonsense, man. No human being is God. Um, let's see. Yeah, Tariq was like, I'm not going to go through it, but all you have to do is like, he has some song like, if you just Google Tariq Nasheed rap, you will see, the images of one of his albums. He has this one image where he has some do-rag on his head, and he has this woman in the background with soap on her. And it's like, I think the song is like titled Wash Your Ass or something crazy like that. Just look it up, man. It's all over YouTube, man, if you're not aware of it. Yeah, man. So I want to thank y'all for tuning in, man. I appreciate it. For those people who are watching the playback, tell me what you think about this controversy. What do you think about this Zaza Ali situation? What do you think about this lawsuit against Boyce Watkins? What do you think about these people that present themselves as pro-Black here on YouTube? What do you think about what they're all about? So let me know what you think. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. Like this video, share this video. Again, I'm looking for more subscribers. I want to get to 10,000 subscribers, and with your help, we can do that. Hit that notification bell so that you'll know when I post new content. So with that, I'll say peace and blessings to each and every one of you. Have a wonderful day.